So recently I've been doing a rewatch of Sailor Moon Crystal, seeing as it's been a whole decade, yes, decade since it came out. The first time watching it was about being in this excited frenzy and seeing all of my favourite moments from the manga come to life on screen with the music and the voices and everything in between. And I've actually been enjoying watching it this time with no weekly delay between episodes. But with this subsequent watch, it's really made me think about all of the technical, behind-the-scenes process of adapting a work and everything that comes with that. Like what source material makes the cut, and how an anime can have different challenges to the manga medium, not just narratively but also visually. Like how in a manga you can just jump from scene to scene and not really know where it takes place, whereas with an anime you have the added challenge of connecting the different scenes via locations they connect to, and sometimes even coming up with completely new environments for scenes. All of these questions inspired me to make a series touching on the key differences found in the Sailor Moon Crystal adaptation of the Sailor Moon source manga. Things like major additions or changes that shake up the content of each act. I'll mostly try to keep it to the point of showcasing the key differences and not touch on minor changes that capture the same intention of the source material, like for example Usagi's rush to get ready for school having different choreography in the first scene of the manga versus Crystal. But I might not be able to keep to this rule, so bear with me. For reference, I'll be using the eternal editions of the manga as my base for the source material. So with all of that boring intro stuff out of the way, it's time for Act 2 of Sailor Moon Crystal, Army, Sailor Mercury. The first addition to Act 2 of Sailor Moon Crystal is an opening segment focused on introducing Army. She's presented as a smart outcast who, while successful academically, is mocked for having a lack of friends and over-focusing on studying. We are then presented with a contrast of solitary Army standing, observing, and perhaps being drawn to Usagi, who is surrounded by her friends and having a bustling conversation. In the manga, she appears further on in the chapter. Jadeite has been blessed with slightly more screen time as we once again get an added scene of him summoning the monster of the episode, showing a bit of his own autonomous power. In the manga, when Usagi arrives home, we get a comedic scene where her mother refers to Luna as Little Crescent Bold Spot and gets scratched in return by an infuriated Luna, who hates being called bold according to Usagi. I wonder how this would have played out in Crystal. It's then followed up with a reintroduction of Usagi, which would have been more of a needed addition in the manga, as each chapter came out once a month, and so it served as a nice little reminder to the readers of who Usagi was. This was also cut in Crystal, as I guess it was assumed that by now viewers would know who Usagi is, especially with the target audience of Crystal being women who read the manga and watched the anime when it originally aired. The only unfortunate result of this cut is we miss out on the funny, seamless transition from Usagi's introduction where she says she's normal, to her seeing Luna and correcting herself to say that she was normal before the obvious events of the first episode. When Luna's looking into Army, we see her in a very futuristic location. This is the Revamped Command Center featured within the Game Center Crown Arcade, which has been fully updated with futuristic interior and even more sophisticated computers. A change from the manga where it looks more like a secret office under the arcade. In Crystal, we also see that Luna has the pages of Usagi and Tuxedo Mask loaded up on her computer. When Usagi and her friends are discussing Army's intellect and dedication to studying, it quickly descends into backbiting. In Sailor Moon Crystal, however, we see Army witnessing the discussion, with them being in completely different lighting to her, showing the separation socially between her and them. The scene where Usagi speaks to Army for the first time plays out in a slightly different way to the manga. In this version, Army hands Luna back to Usagi. When their hands touch, she experiences a flashback of the Silver Millennium, making their connection clearer. The comedic face Usagi makes when fantasizing about being able to get Ami to help her with her test gets traded for a more tame, satisfied expression from Usagi. Going forward, you'll see quite a few more comedic scenes traded for more grounded emotions, especially in the first season. When Usagi takes Ami to the arcade, the manga paints Ami with an air of mystery, analysing the game as Usagi plays and then immediately trying it out when Usagi invites her to play. Sailor Moon Crystal softens Ami's character a bit by having an introduction scene between her and Motoki, followed by Ami's unsure and playful disposition when asked by Usagi to have a turn at the game. As she plays the game, we see her excited reaction as she successfully progresses through it, alongside Usagi's praise of her, humanizing her a bit earlier on compared to the manga. Sailor Moon Crystal makes it clearer to the viewer that Ami is not an enemy, as the scene with her at cram school has been updated, with the teacher handing her a crystal study disc with the promise that it will help her succeed in becoming a doctor. When Ami uses it, we see her eyes glaze over, showcasing her brainwashing. The teacher then smirks, further separating Ami from the notion that she could be a villain. The manga version of the scene simply has the teacher expressing her hopes for Ami to continue to do well in order to inspire other students. In the manga, when Ami is studying in the library, sporty Usagi notices her and invites her out for some ice cream later. When they overhear some students talking about going to the seminar, Ami remembers the conversation she had with her teacher, telling her that she is who everyone aspires to be when it comes to studying, and in grounded disappointment, rejects Usagi's invitation to go out in favour of going to Crystal's seminar. In Sailor Moon Crystal, this scene plays out differently, with Usagi dressed in her usual school clothes, probably as it would make more sense that she would carry around her pen with her in those clothes versus her sport uniform. Ami actually accepts Usagi's invitation in this adaptation. However, once she remembers what the professor told her at the seminar, her brainwashed demeanour is reactivated with her eyes glazing over, opting to go to the seminar instead. When she leaves, Luna appears and they both show concern over Ami, with Luna saying they should go check up on her. In the manga, Usagi just mentions how Ami ditches her and comments on how tired Ami looks. When Usagi and Luna are walking home, they're handed flyers for the Crystal Seminar. The flyer carries the promise that you will see your test scores soar, and Luna makes it her mission to tell Usagi that she should enroll herself, prompting Usagi to crumple the leaflet and throw it, hitting an unsuspecting Mamoru. In Crystal, the scene plays out similarly, but excludes the scene of Luna, having Usagi just toss the leaflet as soon as she sees that it's an advert for the cram school. After Mamoru notices that Luna's talking, Usagi makes a swift retreat, noting that her heart races every time she sees him. The manga hints that there's a connection via Usagi looking flustered as she walks away, but it isn't as obviously stated. The manga makes it a point to associate the crystal disc with Ami, almost hinting that she could be involved in the latest Dark Kingdom plot. Luna suggests to Usagi that they borrow a school computer to try and look further into the properties of the crystal disc. Initially, it appears that it just contains normal test prep, until Usagi mashes a bunch of buttons and the true purpose of the crystal disc as a brainwashing program comes to light. At the same time, we see Mamoru also uncover the truth about the crystal disc, furthering the notion that he is more involved in this story. Usagi and Luna make it their mission to take action, and it's then that they make the connection that Ami has also been brainwashed. Sailor Moon Crystal takes an updated approach to this scene, as this is a modernized adaptation set in 2014 instead of 1992. We see quite a few updates to the technology that would have been featured in the manga, and this is seen here with Usagi having access to a laptop, and one that actually has a disk drive, might I add, conveniently in the comfort of her own room instead of having to rent a school computer like in the manga. Mamoru's investigation scene has been cut out, however we get Usagi immediately noting that Ami is in danger when they find out that the crystal disc is a brainwashing program, completely eliminating any suspicion of her character. In the manga, when Usagi sneaks into the school to infiltrate, we immediately see her try to snap Ami out of any brainwashed state she's in, before Usagi leaves her to go warn the other students of the threat they're in. Crystal rewrites the scene completely, with the teacher supervising a brainwashed Ami utilizing the crystal disc to study. The teacher then notices Ami's new pen, which triggers Ami to remember the friendly conversation she had with Usagi earlier on. When the teacher throws the pen away, Ami tries to run after it, only to be grabbed by the teacher. Usagi and Luna then enter the room and Luna attacks the teacher and frees Ami, who manages to get a hold of her pen. We then get some added dialogue of Usagi trying to free Ami of her brainwashing. Usagi then activates her inner Miss Marple and lays out her findings to the teacher. In the manga, the teacher mostly fights in her normal form until a bit later on where you see some of her ghoulish traits come out. In Crystal, from the get-go of the plan being exposed, she morphs into her monster form. As Ami is present for the whole fight in Sailor Moon Crystal, we get an additional line of dialogue from Usagi who questions whether she's allowed to transform in front of her, with Luna giving her permission, most likely as she has her own theory of Ami also being a Sailor Senshi. After gaining Luna's approval, she transforms without hesitation. In contrast, in the manga, Usagi is shocked to hear that she has to transform into Sailor Moon once again after how scary it was the last time, and even tries to get out of it by staying in her nurse costume. Adding a little extra to Usagi's warm personality, a nice scene was added where Sailor Moon accosts the monster for tricking her friend Ami. This speech triggers something within Ami who repeats the notion, adding up to the moment where she breaks out of her brainwashed state. During Sailor Moon's battle with the monster, Ami is held hostage, where the plot twist is revealed that she was never brainwashed to begin with, as she chose to study through hard work and without the facilitated use of the crystal disc. This revelation added a more subtle, nuanced and sad twist to Ami's character, as throughout the chapter it was hinted at how stressed she was, with Usagi also noting how she looked as pale as a ghost and tired, which was eventually assumed to be because of her brainwashing. Unfortunately, this revelation just confirms that how she appeared wasn't due to her being brainwashed, but simply being overworked and stressed over being seen as the model aspirational student. The manga and Sailor Moon Crystal follow two different routes to Ami's awakening as Sailor Mercury. In the manga, while Ami is restrained by the enemy, her pen begins to glow in her pocket after Luna tells her to raise it in the air, which triggers her awakening and a cold mist to form in the environment. Sailor Moon in all of the commotion is targeted by the monster, but gets assisted by Tuxedo Mask, who guides her in pinpointing the location of the enemy and landing a kick. Sailor Moon then uses Moon Tiara Boomerang to slice the enemy in half before resuming her search for Ami using the Moon Eye Mask. As the fog clears up, Ami is revealed as Sailor Mercury and the chapter is brought to an end as Luna discusses Mercury being the brains of the group. In Crystal's version of events, after Sailor Moon's speech to the monster calling Ami her friend, she's furiously attacked by charged pieces of paper. As Sailor Moon gets battered by the flurry of attacks, Ami looks on concerned, slowly pushing herself in a position to take action. When Sailor Moon is trapped by the enemy, who lunges at her with her newly done nails, Ami brilliantly snaps out of her brainwashed state in a bid to protect Usagi, awakening as Sailor Mercury. After the revelation that Ami as Sailor Mercury has settled within the group, Mercury uses Mercury Aqua Mist to cast a fog over the area. Unfortunately, Sailor Moon's still trapped, so the monster starts to lunge at her again in revenge. However, she's saved by Tuxedo Mask, who taps into his inner Mortal Kombat and prompts Sailor Moon to finish her. Sailor Moon launches her Moon Tiara Boomerang and we see the monster's silhouette sliced in two and melt away. Jadeite decided he would work for his salary by featuring in a new but small scene showing him aware and disappointed of the fact that there is now a new Sailor Guardian. I hope he was paid well. At the end of this episode, we're given another new scene of Usagi and Ami wondering how Ami transformed with the pen she got at the arcade, with Luna proudly feigning ignorance over the situation and her initial intuition of Ami being a Sailor Guardian being true. Ami and Usagi then reconfirm their newfound friendship, and Ami excitedly takes the initiative in asking Usagi to hang out so she can get a better grasp of the situation, with Usagi being less enthusiastic as she's worn out over the events of the day. To close off the episode, similar to the end of episode 1, we get a preview of the next main character to join the cast. And that's Act 2 completed. What did you think of the changes in this episode? See you next time for Act 3.